Good evening, guys. Welcome to another episode, another session, Study and Win session brought to you by the AWS Security User Group West Africa. And we hope to, sorry, okay, anyway, we hope to enlighten you guys and teach and tell you everything and new developments in the cloud security space. And today's topic is going to be, before we even get into that, how was your weekend? This is a new week. How was your weekend? How is your day going? Well, most likely all back in the house or done with today's work. So let me know how your week went or how your day went and where you are tuning in from in the comment section. Yes, so today, hi Paul, welcome to today's session. We are glad to have you here. Um, thank God, thank God. Today's session is going to be hosted by Tolulope Adeleke, and a bit of introduction about Tolu. Tolu is the brain behind growth and operations in our organization, and she's highly enthusiastic about opportunities that technology provides for women. And oh, sorry about that, Mohammed. Mondays are usually very hectic. Sorry about that. Um, anyway, Tolu is highly enthusiastic about the opportunities that technology provides for women and on other undeserved demographics of people in Africa. In her past roles, she has amassed hands-on experience in sales, client management, business development, and tech education. And while developing expertise as a thought leader in cloud computing, she's currently devoting her time to learn and gain certifications and expertise in the cloud space. And as a community builder for AWS, she helps enthusiasts learn skills in cloud computing, help them start careers in building cloud infrastructure for rising tech companies. And she's currently volunteering as a cloud program manager at She Code Africa. That's an amazing profile. So let's welcome Tolulope Adeleke to give us to teach us about introduction to development on AWS. Um,
Hi
welcome, Tolu.
everyone. I thank you so much, Adefowoke. Hi
Thank you.
everyone.
How was
It's
your
great to
day?
see. That's okay. Just like Mama said, quite hectic, but it's Monday now.
So I'm just going to
Nigerians
do.
are supporting Hilda, so that's the only great thing
Everywhere
we
has
are.
been on hold right now, and I'm so excited. I'm really so excited. While I'm working, I'm just on my phone trying to catch up and see what is
Yes,
going on. But she has broken the record, and she's even deciding to go
she's
further
going for
to round
100
up.
hours. I'm rooting
That's
for her.
amazing. That's great. I cook for 3 hours and I'm exhausted. So she's doing great. Shout out
She's
to
doing absolutely great.
awesome,
So
awesome
it's a
work.
lesson for us all, guys. We can definitely do it if we set our minds to it.
Yes, yes. Hilda has she has motivated us. So anything you want to do, please go ahead and do it. Nothing is impossible. So I'm just going to give you the floor now and let you take over.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, guys, we are going to go down to the topic of today, which is development into introduction into development. And I'm trying to share my screen. Wow. If you can help me with that, Adefor, okay. I already have it uploaded. Just need to help share this. Mhm. Apologies, guys. Apologies. I really don't know how this is done. Thank you, Mohammed.
Sorry about that. I think we're having a bit of difficulty with Tolu sharing our screen. So I'm just going to give you guys a bit of music, just something light while we sort this issue.
Thank you so much, Ade, for okay. Thank you so much, and apologies, guys. Apologies. Network and my system decided to show me a little bit today. Thank you so much, Ade, for okay. So we are going to talk about development on AWS, and I can assure you this is absolutely like the slide is explanatory itself. I'm not going deep because this is just the introductory aspect of everything. So yes, if you're a beginner, if you don't have any idea on AWS, this is definitely for you also. You totally understand. Next slide, please. So, what do we mean by development on AWS? For starters, we know that we have various cloud providers, but the three major cloud providers are AWS, Azure Cloud, and Google Cloud. We have Oracle, Alibaba, and so on and so forth. But the three major cloud providers are AWS, that's Amazon Web Service, Microsoft owns Azure Cloud, then Google obviously owns the Google Cloud provider. So yes, we're going to talk about development on AWS. So development on AWS refers to the process of creating and deploying application. So development on AWS is simply when you create or you deploy an application and software solutions using Amazon Web Service. So AWS is, like I said before, is a comprehensive cloud computing platform provided by Amazon. So Amazon Web Service, AWS provides a lot of services. You can build, you can test, you can deploy, you can scale, which is called scalability. You can also secure. You know, this user group is AWS Cloud Security User Group because our major focus is on cloud security. That is why it is AWS Cloud Security User Group. So on AWS, you can do a lot of things. You can deploy, you can scale, you can secure on AWS. But our focus mainly is on the services that are used when you're trying to develop, that is, create or deploy applications or software solutions on AWS. Next slide, please. So, like I said, AWS provides a vast, number array. If you are going to, go high when you're speaking, provides a vast array of services, which includes compute, storage, databases, machine learning, and analytics. Like you can do a lot of things. So if you want to store, if you want to make use of the compute services, if you want to make use of machine learning, analytics, a lot of things can actually be done using AWS. So we are going to talk about some of the services which you can use individually or together when you're trying to meet a specific development requirement. Meaning, let's say Benga is trying to create or deploy on AWS. It can make use of some of AWS services to do that. So if Benga or Mohammed is trying to deploy a software application and it needs the application to scale in order to meet up a particular development requirement, it would make use of a particular service on AWS to upscale. If it wants to actually secure, like, okay, the security on this application that I'm creating or deploying is not great enough, there is a service on AWS in which you can use to make what is actually doing, maybe creating or deploying at that moment to make it more secure. So we are going to talk about some of the core AWS services that is relevant to development. Next slide, please. So the first service we're going to talk about is AWS Elastic Compute Cloud, which is EC2. So can someone, apart from what is on my screen, just on the comment section, if you can write what you know about EC2, if you have an idea, you can drop it. But majorly, I'm checking that out, please. But majorly, developers actually use EC2 when they want to like scale. If you're creating an application and you need to scale it, like you need more power, let me use that. Let me use that. You want to scale, you want to like, okay, 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 man. One of our, core person in our AWS community. Thank you, Keme. Okay, Paul. Provide access to AWS provide. Okay, storage compute. Like, you guys, I don't know why I'm the one speaking. You are supposed to be the one speaking right now because you guys are throwing it out. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so EC2 like allow developers to provide visual services, just like Mohammed said, and Paul said access to images which provide storage compute. You guys have said it all. So one major service when you're using AWS servers and you're actually developing majorly individuals that are trying to do anything on AWS we definitely go through EC2. Next service, next slide, please. Lambda. I think when I started, learning about AWS services, this service was actually quite interesting to me because, like, the name, I don't even know what it's used for, but the name, like, I was like, is it lamb or lambda before I started? I don't even know if my pronunciation is quite okay, but this is what I call it. And yes, AWS Lambda is a serverless computing service. So, before I proceed, I need to be sure we all know what serverless and non-serverless services are. If you have an idea, can you please drop it? Serverless and non-serverless service. So, AWS is a serverless computing service that enables developers to run code without managing servers. It automatically, I think this is the explanatory enough, it automatically scales and handles the infrastructure for you, allowing you to focus on your code. So if Paul is trying to like deploy or run a service, while Paul is trying to code and also like manage his servers at the same time, it might become like a situation for Paul. But with AWS Lambda, Paul can actually focus on what is trying to code, what is trying to deploy at that moment, and leave the management of servers to this development service. So yes, Barmaid. Any other like explanation on that, please? So while Paul is like trying to focus on his code, he just leave it onto AWS Lambda to take care of managing the servers. And that is why we need platforms like AWS to make things easier for us. So cloud computing and cloud computing services, AWS services such as Lambda is, how should I put it? Is doing the work on our behalf because that is what they are meant to do. So just like Mohammed said, serverless is operating your service on someone else's computer like AWS, Azure, and all that. So you just make use of the AWS services that allows you manage your servers while you focus on running your code and making sure your code runs effectively. All right, next slide, please. Please, before I proceed, I want us to like make this as interactive as possible. And if you have questions, please drop it on the chat. I'm reading through the chat while speaking. So if you have questions, drop it on the chat, and let's rub minds together. I promise not to take much of our time because this is just an introductory aspect. So let's talk about S3. This is one of the most interesting service, AWS development service, when you are starting on in the cloud space. Like a lot of individuals who are starting on in the cloud space and are making use of the cloud platform like AWS actually find this very, very interesting. So S3, just as the name says, is simple storage service. This actually provides scalable object storage for storing and retrieving data. And why do most of us make use of the cloud space? Because we actually want to store, we actually want to secure something. That is the reason why we make use of cloud platforms like AWS. So if you're going to, like, let's say you're a cloud administrator and you are going to be concerned with storage, security and all that, you'll be making use of this development service, S3. So S3 provides scalable object storage for storing and retrieving data. It is commonly used to store static files such as images, videos and documents. I remember when I first created my first static website, I was so proud of myself. So I hope you understand what we mean by static. Please, if you have an idea of what static is, can you just drop a chat? Let me know we're on the same page. Static. I know I have made mention of the kind of files we're talking about: images, videos, and documents. But what does static mean? I think the name has explained itself. Thank you so much, Mohammed. Like, thank you for participating, like, as prompt as possible. Thank you so much. So something that is not changing frequently is what is called static. So a lot of us, exactly. Thank you so much, Mohammed. A lot of us actually have a lot of static files. The first website I created is actually a static website, right? Where I just placed all my information, and if I need to share with someone, is that same file. Nothing actually changes on that file. Nothing, just like Mohammed said, nothing changed on your static file. So your static files is something that is just there. But then if it needs to be secured, if you need to secure it as much as possible, you have to, and you're making use of the AWS cloud platform, you have to make use of S3. So S3 provides scalable object storage for storing and retrieving data. It is commonly used to store static files such as images, videos, and documents. So that is what S3 is used for. And a lot of organizations actually have files like this that they need to scale at some point, or they need to store at some point, because the main reason why a lot of organizations are making use of cloud platform is to actually automate what they do, automate, secure, manage what they do. So S3, that is AWS S3, is that major service you are going to use when you're trying to deploy or create, when you're trying to make use of AWS development service. Next slide, please. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Storage. Yes, Mohammed. This is one of my like most interesting service on AWS, because who doesn't like to store and make sure what you're storing is secure. So IAM, identity and access management. You definitely should have an idea of what this is, especially when you're trying to use the AWS cloud platform. You're trying to go into the portal. You can see how, let me just use the word, very easy it is to actually go into the your AWS cloud platform. You can see you're going to be asked to make sure you're not a human. You're going to wait until you get a code and all that. That is how serious security is when it comes to the cloud space. So who has access to, and who is who has access to what, who is who on your, maybe your organization cloud, who is who on maybe your organization cloud platform. This is the go-to person for that. I'm going to use go-to person. This is who takes care of that. This is the service that actually takes care of that. So IAM, identity and access management, allows you to manage access and permissions to AWS resources securely. So you can create and manage user accounts, roles and permission to control who can access your resources. So let's say we are all a member of an organization, and Mohammed is the CEO. So Mohammed would definitely, like, let's say, have the admin access to everything, but he's going to like create roles for us. Let's say I'm in the audit department. There is a particular access I can have, and those in the tech department, there is a particular access they can have. We all can't have the same access. We all cannot have that super admin access like the CEO. So who takes care of who have access to what, who can give permission for what, who can manage what account? This is the go-to service for that. This is very necessary. This is very necessary when you're trying to deploy an application, when you're trying to create an application, when you're trying to do anything. This is very, very necessary. Majorly organizations, individuals, you cannot, I don't think you can use the cloud platform without going through this. I think you can't do that. So permission, security, management is left to the hands of this service, IAM. So this service is the go-to person for management. And we all know how very important management of an organization is. So this is how important IAM is. So IAM allows you manage access and permission when it comes to your resource and make sure it is secure. All right, next slide, please. Okay, I used to call this, let's say, the three squares. Don't let me use P squares. AWS code commit, code build, and code pipeline. So these services provide source code management, continuous integration, and continuous delivery. So these services actually do the main thing. If you are going into the DevOps aspect, or you are a solutions architect, this is one of your main guys. So CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery, these are the services you're going to make use of when doing this. They help you manage your code, build and test it. That is explanatory enough. They help you manage your code, build and test it, and automate the deployment process. And why are you using a cloud platform if not because you don't want to do your codes manually? You want to make sure that life gets easy at some point, right? So you want to make sure that at least when you're trying to focus on your code, some things are going on at the background manually. Okay, I think this is for the previous service, privileges management, Benga. I really don't understand what you mean by privileges management, but yes, when it comes to IAM, privilege, there are some privilege, there are some resources you cannot open to everyone. So yes, some people have the privilege to access some resource than some other people, which is normal. As an auditor in an organization, I have access to the, let's say, the finance, the money aspect of the organization. But those in the tech department don't have access to that. So yes, privileges management, if that is what you mean. Okay, guys, let's come back to code commit, code build, and code pipeline. So, like I said, at some point you want life to get easy for you. Same thing when you're trying to develop an application or software or create an application or software. You want to be able to manage your code, build, and make sure it is run successfully. You want to be able to focus on what you're running. So you need to like get some things automated at the background, get some things running while you focus on some other things. So you want to make sure that you are getting your integration done, and then it is getting out, like as you're putting it in, is coming out successfully. That is CI/CD. What service will you use at, at that point? You're making use of code commit, code build, and code pipeline. So these are, they actually almost majorly they work together. So these services provide source code management, continuous integration, and continuous delivery capabilities. So this is explanatory itself. You, if we are going to dive in into this service on its own, just like IAM also, if we are going to dive in into IAM, there are topics on their own for us to learn these services better. IAM, like I briefly explained earlier, is not as simple as that. When you dive in into IAM, you can see that security is no child's play. So this also goes for code commit, code build, and the code pipeline. When you dive in into this, you understand that a lot have to do with management of your code and also running your codes and testing it at the same time. So, but when it comes to doing all that, this is the development service that is in charge of that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can you hear me? Next slide, please. Okay, cloud formation. Cloud formation. So I want to like just think about it using the name itself, cloud formation. So cloud formation enables you to define and deploy your infrastructure as a code. Infrastructure as a code is what you deal with when you're making use of cloud formation. So it allows you to provision and manage AWS services using declarative templates. It allows you automate the process of setting up your application infrastructure. So when we are talking of infrastructure in AWS, like infrastructure as a code, please, can someone give me an idea what, just like define infrastructure as a code in one simple sentence? Because if you have an idea of what, I used to call it IAC, IAC, infrastructure as a code is, then you would understand what we are trying to say. So, we have, I'm waiting if anyone has an idea of infrastructure as a code is. So cloud formation, I'm waiting. While I'm waiting for that, I would explain what cloud formation is all about. Though this is explanatory enough. And guys, if you want access to like this slide, you can just reach out to us and I'll make sure it's sent across to you. So AWS Cloud Formation enables you to define and deploy your infrastructure as a code. So, when you're trying to like automate your process, when you're trying to get things done automatically, you can't do that without making use of the structure you're making use of. I don't know how to explain this, but if you're trying to manage your resource, you have to go through like a defined process. Is a process already set up for you. So cloud formation actually make sure that everything is in order. You are following the due process. I hope you get that. So if you're trying to like follow the due process, if you're trying to, yes, Mohammed, exactly. If you're trying to like follow the due process, if you're trying to like follow like the laid down rules before, that is what we call templates. Using a template, like let's say you're trying to post something on your social media. Sometimes they tell you, okay, I have a template for you to use. Or if like you're trying to send an email, most organizations have like an email template they use. So all you just need to do is maybe edit at some point. So that is where this come in. So, okay, Mame said just like managing and provisioning of infrastructure through code instead of through. Thank you. Thank you so much. You just made that so easy. So instead of going through the process manually, like getting it done manually, the template is there for you already. All you just need to do is follow the due process to get it done. So that is what AWS Cloud Formation is. So just like Mame said, instead of managing, instead of going through a manual process, there's a template there for you. So you just go through the template, automate what's your process, and make sure it is in the right format. Make sure it follows the right process. So that is what cloud formation is. Cloud formation enables you to define and deploy your infrastructure as code. So instead of saying when you press, instead of going through, when you press start, press apply, press this, do that, it's as simple as just, it has a code already set down to get this thing done. Type in the code and get your deployment, get it delivered to you. So instead of going through the long process of getting things done manually, you will have a lot of code templates set up. So that is what infrastructure as code is, simply. Next slide, please. So if you're trying to develop on AWS, we are rounding up now, guys. So if you're trying to develop on AWS, you can use the AWS Management Console command line interface or leverage SDKs and APIs in your preferred programming language. Just like we said earlier, infrastructure as code. So if you're trying to develop on AWS, and this is the reason why we have, cloud platforms such as AWS, in order to automate a lot of things, get things done as simple as possible. So you can make use of various CLI, that is command line interface, the AWS Management Console. When you are dealing with the AWS Management Console, majorly you are dealing with IAM, that is IAM, Identity and Access Management, and the command line interface. Maybe you're trying to CI/CD and all that. Then AWS SDKs and APIs in your preferred programming language. That is what we just said now, IAC and all that. So I'm trying to like link how you're going to use these services with the services we just stated earlier. So AWS provides a lot of you know development frameworks, including popular ones such as Node.js, Python, Java, and more. So you have to like run codes. You have to run codes in order to get things done as easily as possible. And then we have a lot of languages you can actually make use of that has been integrated into the platform already. So that is summary of what this paragraph is all about. Next slide, please. Overall, development on AWS offers a robust and scalable environment for building, developing applications in the cloud, allowing developers to leverage the power and flexibility of AWS services to create innovative and reliable solutions. So, why do we actually develop on AWS? Is for us to get things done as soon as possible. Why do we have developers? Why do we have solutions architects? Why do we have these people who are actually behind the brain of every applications and softwares we have today? They are all providing solutions and they are all securing and creating and doing a lot of things behind the scene. But then they have to make their work easier also. And so that is why we have services that we just stated here today. So in order for you to get, your services rendered as soon as possible in the right manner in which you want it and without error, that is what the AWS development is all for. So AWS offers that environment for creating or building the applications. So it gives the developers, it gives them that power to actually be sure and be flexible in their way of doing, and to make sure that, okay, if what Mohammed creates or what Mohammed just deployed needs to, needs to go from 86 to 100 at some point, let's say because the data at that point is, getting more robust. For the developer don't have to like go over it again. All what the developer needs to do at that period is just to scale at that moment. And then there's a service already for that. So lives get easier at every moment. And that is what development on AWS is all about. We make use of every service on AWS to get things done as easily and as flexible as possible. So, any question, guys? Any question? Do we have question? Question? Mohammed, yes, he said, are these AWS services affordable? Mm, pay as you go. So at some point, you need to just be sure of what you what you're doing. So they are actually affordable when you're looking at the when you're looking at the reward. I want to use the word reward. When you're looking at what you're going to get at the end of the day, then they are affordable. But then pay as you go, you just make sure that you what you're putting in at that moment. Okay, let me just break this down for every beginner who is trying to like run some services. Whatever you're doing, you know when to put a pause to it, you know when to put it on. Like, let's say you're trying to, let me make this as simple as possible. In Nigeria, we all have this prepaid meter, right? So as you're using your electricity, you know when to switch on your gas, when to switch on your light, when to put it off when you're going out and all that. So you can actually do this when you're working on AWS. You can actually put a limit to what you're doing. So every amount you're putting in, you know how to like follow a strict budget. So yes, the services can be affordable, but just make sure that you are following a strict budget and just make sure you're getting, value for the money you're putting in. So yes, they can be affordable, but then you need to make sure that okay, when you're deploying, you don't just let your deployment go on without, you know, putting a restriction to it. You can actually a lot of big organizations actually have, you know, solutions architects and those in charge of just that. So they are quite affordable, but I can't call it cheap, but they are affordable. I don't know what cheap mean, but for organizations who want value for their money, they are quite affordable. They are extremely affordable compared to when you get things done manually and at the end of the day, it doesn't work out. Do you understand me? Okay, Obey, that's quite okay if you have no question. Any other question, guys? So, like I said earlier, they are quite affordable when you actually get what you want to do done, not like you're trying to do stuff manually or you're trying to get things done manually and at the end of the day you find out that there's an error, there's a fault in the application or the software just created. So it is cheaper that way to run things automatically. All right, no other question. So there'll be no quiz for today, guys, but stay tuned to tomorrow. Stay tuned to tomorrow. There's no quiz for today, but please make sure to stay tuned to tomorrow. I will hand over to Ade for okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for that wonderful session. It was very straight to the point and you really broke it down. And thank you guys for joining and participating, asking questions, answering questions. We really appreciate, and we're so sorry there will be no quiz for today due to unforeseen circumstances. But when the quizzes are back, it would be back and better and more interesting. Thank you, Tolu. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. We hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is another day for session till next week again. We hope to see you tomorrow with the same energy. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Paul. Thank you all for joining. Bye.